Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. This is where we dive into love, dating, relationships, and sometimes a little bit of writing talk. So thanks for tuning in. My name is Porscha Sterling. I'm a romance author. And being a romance author, I love to dive into talking about the realities of love, both the beautiful and the complicated. And the complicated is definitely what we're diving into today. So, today we're going to talk about something I came across that really made me think. What's the difference between a man fumbling you versus a man punting you? And trust me, once you hear the difference, it's going to change the way that you look at some of your past relationships or interactions with men. So I saw a post from Rob Hill Sr. the other day on Threads, and it said, "A punt is more common than a fumble." And then he had a comment under that said, "Learn something from this." That's the post. Honestly, after reading it, I had to sit with it for a second because I know what a fumble is. I'm not a football fanatic, but I know some of the terms, and I definitely know what a fumble is. And I know what a punt is, but I wanted to look into the intention, like the strategy behind it, because I knew that this clearly was a metaphor to something that happened, a metaphor for something that was happening in relationships. So I was trying to figure that out. I wanted to make the connection. And once I made that connection, I was like, whoa, that's pretty deep. So today I want to break down what it means to be fumbled versus what it means to be punted, why men do it, and how you can tell the difference between what's happening. Because sometimes, yes, it is on him, but sometimes it's also about something that we need to look into ourselves. And if we're always saying, oh, he fumbled me, you might be missing a lesson that you need to learn as far as your own journey of development. And maybe it'll make your relationships different the next go around. And this is not about blaming. I want to say that. This is definitely a video where I want to increase your awareness of self and empower you to make different decisions in the future. So first, let me explain the metaphor for those of you who do not know. In football, a fumble is like a mistake. It's an accident that happens because of lack of care or focus. This is when someone wasn't careful, they weren't paying attention, and they lost something valuable. In the case of football, they lost the ball, they fumbled the ball by accident. So a fumble is by accident. A punt, though, is an intentional release. It's a strategic choice that is made to avoid risk or responsibility. So a punt is when someone looks at what they've got, realizes it's too much pressure or too much responsibility, and instead of holding on to it, they choose to let it go. Now that you understand that, the next question obviously is like, why would a man fumble and why would they punt? And what does this look like? So let's go over the reasons why a man might fumble you. Remember, this is him missing out on you by accident. In some cases, a man may fumble you because of immaturity, poor communication. He may not know how to communicate his feelings or speak to you in a way that makes the relationship work. And in some cases, he just doesn't recognize your worth. He can be careless with your time and energy. Maybe you met him at a time in his life where he's in a season of focusing on self and he really shouldn't be dating. So he's not as on it or focused on you as he should be. In some cases, he may just not know what to do with you. Sometimes people get the woman that they are asking for, and then when they get her, they're like, I don't know what to do with her. Or in a lot of cases, a man might get the woman he's asking for, and it brings up a lot of insecurity in him. I literally saw this happen I was watching Love is Blind, I think it's France. One of the guys on there, he had this connection with a woman in the pods, and then when they saw each other, he was like, she's drop dead gorgeous. And he literally said multiple times that he wasn't confident, like he lacked self-confidence, and you could see him just like, I was about to say fumbling, but yes, he literally was like, he could not speak because she was so beautiful and just everything that he could have wanted. And she obviously most women want a strong, confident man. So this was something he hadn't worked on, like this insecurity. Because even though he desired a woman that looked like her, he had never approached a woman that looked like her or had a chance to be with a woman that looked like her because of his own insecurities. And so now that he had her, he was showing his lack of confidence and it was turning her off. And she was just like, I hope that he can become the confident man that I want him to be. And literally, if you're reading into that, you're seeing that this isn't going to work if he starts becoming too insecure, because if you've ever been with a guy that's insecure and he's with you, he'll start doing certain things to tear you down, possibly, so that he'll feel better. And that's only obviously if he's not someone that's willing to do the work. So that's definitely a way that a guy could fumble you. So now that we've gone over the reasons why a guy might fumble you, let's go over the reasons why a guy might punt you. So sometimes he just has a fear of stepping up to the plate of what you might require. So if you're a woman who, let's say your standards are pretty high, most women that I know of, they usually expect the same thing from their partner as they expect from themselves. And that's not every case. I will say that I've seen things that are different, but for the most part, if you're dealing with a good woman, she's not going to ask you for more than she's willing to give. What she's giving might look different because men and women have different strengths and weaknesses, but the level of giving should add up. So sometimes she might be demanding something that a man is just, I'm not willing to do that, nor do I want to. So even though you're a great woman and I see the value in you, I'm going to let you go so you can find the person that you should be with. And I'm going to find a person that's demanding different or less in certain areas. And that's more comfortable for me. And in some cases, maybe it might just be that he can't meet your standards or consistency. Maybe you are somebody who is looking for a real romantic relationship, an exclusive romantic relationship, and maybe he's just honest with himself and he knows that this isn't something that he's ready or wanting to deliver. And so he punts because he's just not willing to change. And even in that instance, I think a lot of women reflect and put that weight of that decision on themselves. And they're like, what's wrong with me that he wouldn't want to? Has nothing to do with you. It's all about a person and where they are at that particular time in their life. And you could be a great person and could be offering whatever like that they could have ever wanted, but it's just a case of right person, wrong time. And that's just what it is. You can't wait around for someone to change and to change because of the value that they see in you, because in some cases, they might not ever change. Lastly, some men just like to play it safe and keep their options open. They like to see multiple women at the same time. They don't want to focus too much energy on one. It might be because of a fear of abandonment. It might be because of a fear of intimacy. But for whatever reason, they just don't want to be exclusive to one woman. They want to play it safe, and it's usually pretty safe if you have multiple people orbiting you, because then you can pick and choose how much you decide to give to any particular situation. So, while in this case, they know exactly how great you are, they just may pass on the opportunity to be with you. And it has nothing to do with you. I want to definitely point that out. In the case of punting, it has nothing to do with you. Or what? I will take that back, because sometimes it can have something to do with you. Let me give another reason why a man may punt. It literally may be that you're just not what he wants. Like maybe there's something about you that just isn't what he wants, and it might be the reverse. There's something that he's desiring that you're inflexible on, or you don't want to change about yourself. And in that case, it's just not a good mix. Like, you should be punting and he should be punting. You both should be punting each other. But I do think the hardest part to accept sometimes is that it may not be anything to do with you, why someone fumbled you or why someone punted you. It might have just been because you required him to face things that about himself that he wasn't willing to face. But it might also sometimes, like I said, it might be because of what we were putting out there. And maybe you were sending mixed signals. Maybe your boundaries weren't as solid as you thought or as they should have been. Or maybe you weren't showing up as your full self. And like I said, this is not about blaming or anything. It is about being aware of where you might have dropped the ball in certain instances when it comes to like yourself. Because sometimes we meet a good guy or a great guy and then it just doesn't work out for some reason. And sometimes it's not quite all the way because of him, it might be because of you as well. So, an example of a signal or sending mixed signals in this case would be if you say that you want a committed relationship with a guy, but you're still open to a situationship, that's definitely a mixed signal. And for a lot of people, if they have the option to get what they want with a little bit of an easier journey of getting there, then they'll opt for that. Especially when it comes to men, like if they can, I mean, women too, like that's just a people thing. If we can get what we want while doing the least amount of things to get it, then why not? So if you are wanting a committed situation and you're in a situationship, that's definitely a mixed signal, and it definitely could be a reason why somebody fumbles you, because then at some point you'll start demanding more, and it's like, why are you asking for more and I'm not ready for more? Like, you were giving all of this when I wasn't giving any of that, and now all of a sudden you want to switch it up. Why? I don't want to switch it up. And that, of course, leads to horrible experience. Another reason why this might happen and why you have to examine yourself is a lot of times we want partners who bring peace, but then we chase down people who bring chaos. If you know that this person has a lifestyle or a way of being, or even the things that they're saying just does not align with anything that you want, then you have to let them go, no matter how great the attraction was or how great the intimacy between you two was or the chemistry. You have to just let it go, because literally they're telling you and they're showing you that they're not going to bring you what you want. So there will be no peace in this situation. Peace is alignment. Peace comes from like me wanting something, you wanting the same thing, and us working together for that. Anything other than that is just war. If you want something else and I want something else, and now we're like doing the power games, that's war. That's not peace. So, yes. Also, another thing that as women we tend to do is sometimes we have shaky boundaries. So that's when you're telling a guy where your standards are, and then you let him slide when he doesn't measure up. You can't do that. Also, if you're accepting breadcrumbs, if you want great communication, but you're accepting these little breadcrumbs that he's giving you in consistent communication, anything that is like less than what your standard is and is creating chaos in your life, that's definitely a mixed signal if you're sticking around for that. Sometimes we get into these cycles of over-explaining, negotiating our standards or our boundaries, or shrinking just to keep the peace, or just to keep him not to keep the peace, because usually there is no peace if you're shrinking, but you're doing it to keep him around. Maybe you're not showing up as your full self. Maybe you're carrying unhealed wounds from other connections, so everything feels like a trigger. And at some point, anybody would just get tired of that if every little thing that they're doing, you're just like jumping on it. You could be in a position where you're still unhealed, so you're avoiding accountability and you're still in that cycle of blaming men for everything and ignoring patterns that you also repeat. In some cases, I see women who ask for a man to be stable, disciplined, financially secure, emotionally present, and they haven't built that stability within themselves. They haven't built that level of discipline. They want someone to accept all of their flaws without judgment, but they struggle to accept others and to accept their own flaws and to actually work on them. So in those cases, a man would definitely punt, because even though he knows that you have the potential to be great for him, maybe in order for you to get there, you're asking for him to step up in ways that he's just not wanting to do in order to get you to that point. And if he sees that he's going to have to invest more than maybe you're investing in yourself at the moment, he might just decide, look, I don't want to do this, and I'm not willing to put this level of work in. And I do want to reiterate, this is not about shame. This happens. We all have hills and valleys in life where maybe in some cases we're still working towards things that we desire or ways that we want to be, but we just haven't gotten there yet. And we meet somebody who might be there already. And yeah, so it's just not a shameful place. There should be no shame coming from this. Just know it's important to me that when this happens, that you identify that this is what's going on, and then you can work on those things that you're struggling on, or you can take the time to be single and work on that. So then when the next chance to meet someone that you actually want to create something with, when that chance comes around, you're ready for it. And I definitely hope that everyone who watches my channel is on some journey of growth and making herself a better person. So that being said, I just feel like it's always a good thing to examine situations in your past and examine yourself to see where did you go wrong, because there's never one person that is completely to blame for anything ending. It's usually two people, honestly. One person might have done worse things maybe, but both people played a part in it. So here are some signs that you can look for when you're trying to figure out if the rejection that you might have had in the past from someone was a fumble or if it was a punt, and whether or not this can be someone that you can actually work something out with in the future. Signs that it might have been a fumble: he lost you by accident. So maybe he was ghosting you out of immaturity. Maybe he made careless mistakes and he didn't see your value until late. And in this case, he might end up regretting it, and he'll come and circle back and apologize and admit that he just didn't know what he had. So that might be a person that fumbled you. Signs that it was definitely a punt is if he made a conscious choice to walk away or stall, or he kept saying he wanted to keep things casual even though he knew that you wanted more. Let's say he avoided stepping up in a way that he knew that you wanted him to step into, and after you gave him multiple chances, he just avoided doing it. That means that he didn't really lose you, he just released you. And that's a very clear and conscious decision. In both cases, this is a man who may circle back, and when he circles back, the question then becomes, should you take him back? And my initial opinion as a Capricorn is no, you do not take somebody back. You don't go backwards, girl. But life has taught me that in some instances, people have gone back into situations. People have matured and looked at things differently and done some healing and self-work, and it worked out. In some cases, this might be okay. And for me, if I were to give you any advice, I would say that there's certain cases when you may decide to go back and certain cases when you definitely need to leave. And in my experience, if it's a fumble, sometimes it's recoverable. That's because they made a mistake. Maybe it was a lack of maturity or whatever. So it may be recoverable, but only if the person has grown and takes accountability for what happened. If you don't see any of that happening, then no. In the case of a punt, I would say don't sit around waiting to be picked back up. Respect that this person made the choice that they wanted to make and just move on. Because, that was a conscious choice to just be like, nah, that's not for me. Usually if somebody is saying that, they know themselves well enough to know it's not for them. So the bottom line with this is You're not here to beg someone to be with you. If someone fumbled, he needs to come correct and prove that he understands what he did and he understands what is required of him to move forward with you. And if they punt it, you need to just take that as your sign to move on, because there is somebody out there who will be willing to play the game with you, girl, and he will not fumble, he will not punt, okay? If you're looking for an example of how this happened in the books, I would say I definitely covered this in The Billionaire Next Door. Let's see. Yep. Here it is. This is The Billionaire Next Door. So I definitely covered, this is Lucky on the cover. So he did not punt Cherish. He fumbled her though, but he did not punt her. Who punted her was her husband, Nick. So in the book, Cherish is married to Nick. He's a politician, and he definitely knew the value that she had because she was with him when he was in college. They both were in college. They were both studying to be lawyers, and she didn't practice as an attorney in order to help him get his dreams. Like, she totally helped him to get to the position that he was in. And once he got there and he felt, hey, I don't need you anymore, he got rid of her, intentionally got rid of her to go get someone else who he wanted back when he was in college, another woman who wasn't paying him any attention back then. So that was an obvious punt. He knew what she was, how valuable she was. He used her for all her value, and then was like, boop, I'm done. I'm qualified to go get who I really want. And then he went and got who he really wanted, and he discovered something a lot of us discover, a lot of people discover. The grass ain't greener on the other side. It is not. But, he punted. So Cherish, she was hurt. That was her husband. She loved him, but she wasn't trying to hear all that when he was coming back. Like, bye, kick rocks. So Lucky, he fumbled her because of the fact that he just wasn't mature. First of all, he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready to meet her. She was a woman that he didn't even think existed anymore. He had seen so many just terrible couples, marriages, all of this stuff. Like, he's a hitman. So he'd been employed so many times by people that were in love with each other and no longer were in love with each other and wanted to get rid of each other. Like, he had seen all of that happening. So he was just like, this doesn't exist. Love doesn't exist. I don't want it. And then he found her and was immediately like, I'm not qualified to be with this woman. Like, I'm horrible and no. So yeah, so he fumbled her. Like, he had a chance. She was feeling him, and he just didn't know how to do the right thing, didn't do the right thing. He just was lost, had no idea how to he just didn't know. But like I said, with the fumble, the difference is that usually if the person is a sincere, good person and they circle back, they're willing to, by that time they've grown, they're willing to take accountability, full accountability. And it's almost like you're looking at a different person. Like, the person that they were before is not who they are because they've grown. They've changed into someone else that has learned from their mistakes, and it's very clear and obvious that they've done the work. So that's how you know whether or not you should take them back. And if you're wondering what Cherish did and what Lucky did, it's in this. The link is down below. Anyways, back to the topic. The next time that you catch yourself asking, hey, did he fumble me? Or saying he fumbled me, just pause and really assess, was this a fumble or was this a punt? Because the answer to that will let you know whether to give it some grace or to give it some space, okay? Comment below and tell me, do you think that you've ever been fumbled before or punted before, and which one have you had more of, do you think? Which have you learned from? I think maybe you learn more from a punt, I guess, because maybe there's some reflection there. I don't know, but let me know what you think. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend who might need the reminder that She's whole, she's beautiful, she's great as she is, and it only gets better from here. All right. Bye, y'all.